hotel group, Accor, has been forced to lay off three-quarters of its staff, roughly 220,000 people, due to the coronavirus pandemic. The travel and tourism industry has been heavily hit by the outbreak, but the company says it has enough cash to withstand the crisis. Sebastien Bazin is the CEO of Accor. Sebastien, thank you very much for joining us. Your brand is very present here. It is very present around the world, 5,000 hotels. Those numbers are stunning in terms of the numbers of jobs that you've had to cut. Sebastien, when we go to reopen, of that number of layoffs, do you fully expect to re-employ that number, or will it be a scaled process? Run me through the reality of that number and what can potentially happen if you begin to reopen.
Well, seriously, let's start with a sign of optimism. I intend to rehire every one of them. We had to let go furloughing, temporary leave, you're right, over 200,000 employees out of 300,000 because our hotels being closed as of the 1st of April. I don't know how long that crisis is going to last, but I know you're going to see light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know whether we're going to be able to come back as strong as ever before, likely not because of the GDP recession. But I can tell you for a fact, today we have over 3,000 hotels being closed on a network of 5,000. I intend to reopen every one of them. I intend to rehire every employees, and I just hope that I guess people are going to come back traveling and enjoying geographies and discover people and territories by early this summer. I could be dead wrong, but I'm surely fighting for Accor to survive, surely, and it will, and for the hotel industry to come back on its both feet.
Sebastien, great to speak to you this morning. On the question then of the hotel industry and the travel industry coming back, you pointed to early summer. So let's sort of get a little bit more visibility from you in terms of bookings. What are you seeing on that front that's giving you hope that you might see some sort of a comeback for the industry by early summer?
Well, the only sign of hope we have, and again, it could be very tiny, is out of all the reservations we had, and we have today booked for July and August, less than 10% as of last night have been cancelled. It doesn't mean people will show up. It just means, I guess, people are and have to be as optimistic as I am in terms of the epidemic being hopefully under control by then. And again, I am not naive. I know we're probably going to be fetching 25, 30% occupancy as opposed to 75%. But I can tell you that I'm going to make everything to make sure my hotel will be open and ready to welcome any one of you. So that's basically the sign we have. And again, it changes every day.
Sebastien, we wish you well with that aspiration. That's one of the strongest messages I think I've heard from any CEO on the network. Let's take China as the roadmap. China, we understand, is returning to some form of working life normalcy. What can you tell me about the business in China, perhaps as a roadmap for occupancy,
it's a very good example. As of 2 or 3 weeks ago, we have Accor. We have 25,000 employees in China, over 400 hotels. 2.5 weeks ago, 85% of that 25,000 workforce was at home. As of last night, the exact same number, those 20,000 plus people are today back in the hotel, and 90% of my hotel are today reopened. Okay, fetching small occupancy in the 10, 12, 20%, depending on the location. But business is back, slowly back, recovery, including food and beverage, by the way, in our hotels. And one of our partners, associations, joint venture called Wazoo, which is the second largest operator in China, and he has over 3,000 hotels. And I'm on the board of this company, have been giving me his number last night that he disclosed to the market. 90% of his hotels are today back reopened with close to 60% occupancy. Of course, in the very low budget segment, of course, 98% of his visitors are local Chinese, but it's a good sign of indication that within a country who's being badly hit, 3 weeks, 5 weeks after the fact, after the epidemic being under control, activity is back in some segment in the hotel space in China for sure.
One thing that you've pointed to previously, Sebastien, is your relatively strong balance sheet relative to peers. I wonder, as we sort of look past the crisis that we're in right now, as we have been doing for a lot of this conversation, Could your relatively strong balance sheet create any opportunities for consolidation post-crisis?
Well, it does one thing first. Thanks to this, I can sleep at night. I'm busy all day, 14 hours, trying to look after all my employees being furloughed off, to make sure they have medical assistance, that I can actually assist them if they have any financial or individual distress, which we've been doing. We set it aside some 25% as a dividend unpaid. I'm obviously looking to my owners, but you're correct. Having over 2.5 billion euros of cash on Accor balance sheet permits me to weather the storm and to basically handle a long crisis. I hope it's going to be much shorter than I was just said, but indeed that makes a huge difference in Accor's ability to basically face the wave and not to be run over. And thanks God we have this under our belt.
Sebastien, you talk about the strength of the balance sheet there. Can you just clarify for us then, have you tapped any credit lines, or what is it that could cause you to have to tap credit lines, and a scale of what is available to you?
Well, what's been happening, we have €1.2 billion credit line, €1.2 billion, which we haven't drawn. No necessity, since we have this 2.5 billion of existing cash of immediate use if you want to be. We, of course, like my peers, we have been getting release from the financial holder of that credit line, all those commercial banks, on trying to get relief on the 2020 covenant, all those ratio of 3.5 times debt to EBITDA. That has been obtained, so if we were to draw down on the line because of absence of EBITDA, then we have true ability to do it over the next 12 months. So, but again, as of this minute, I don't intend to draw on the line. We have no necessity for it.
Yeah, and Sebastien, in previous interviews, you've said as well that you don't think you'll need French government help. But is that something you would rule out if things took a turn for the worse?
Well, in today's circumstances, I don't rule out of everything. There's no taboo on any decisions. When you're captain at the helm, what you do is you first get as much information as you could from your local country heads, from national health authorities, from government agencies. You look after, you make the harsh, tough decision on trying to cut costs since you have no business revenues. And then you basically make sure you prepare for the rebound if and when the rebound happens. And I can tell you for a fact, it will happen. The only thing that the three of us, we don't know is when. But of course, that hotel industry on a medium to long term has the exact same benefit it had for the last 50 to 60 years. So I'm not preparing for the rebound as of yet this minute. But of course, I am thinking of it a third of my time. But in the meantime, just be cautious, be prudent, be humble, and know that what you're facing, you've never seen before. But that's okay. I mean, guess we have the backbone, we have a brilliant team, and we have the time, and we have the network. So I'm not in despair. If you're in despair, you don't wake up in the morning running a company.